Welcome into Texans on Tap. I'm Brandon Strange with Charlie Palillo and Josh Jordan. Read their work on sportsmap.com and follow them on X at Palillo and at Josh Jordan 975. Click and like and subscribe to support us. Click the bell for notifications so you know when new content drops, especially when we're live after every game this season on YouTube. And if you prefer listening to your podcast, we're on all your favorite podcast apps like Apple and Spotify. Gents, our predictions for this game. Charlie, you said 27-13 Texans. Josh, you said 27-20 Texans. I said 26-19 Texans. Actual score 19-13 Texans. Those pesky bookmakers got the spread right on the nose, but well under the total. Look, this was an ugly game for both teams. That was, I think, the only way Chicago was going to hang with Houston's offense was to make this an ugly game. And credit to their defense, they really did. What did you guys see? Obviously, Joe Mixon had a much more successful debut with the Texans in Week 1, but in Week 2 against the Bears, they really took away a lot of the offensive threat on the ground game. What did you guys see from the ground game and specifically Chicago's defense that made it so successful and made Houston be one-dimensional?
Well, I think for starters, the Bears have a very credible defense and certainly a better defense than the Indianapolis Colts do. Up front, Sweat's a terrific player. Doesn't always mean he's going to register big numbers, right? Defensive linemen typically don't amass tackles numbers, but they occupy blockers, they wreak havoc, and linebackers can make all the tackles. They also, on the back end, have an elite corner who's paid like one of the very best in the NFL in Jalen Johnson. So that frees them up to maybe walk up a safety a little more, play aggressive with the other components of their defense, thinking they have a corner to take care of one half of the field. The Texans ran it over their head against the Colts relative to what they're going to do week to week, right? 213 yards per game rushing is just not remotely close to sustainable in the NFL. Figured Mixon would be in for a much lighter workload tonight because you're not going to carry the ball 30 times per game. I don't care who you are. And then that he made it back on the field at all, even though it was brief after that ankle, which was, kind of gruesome looking. And they probably overused Cam Akers late. I'm not saying exhaustion after 5 carries in the fourth quarter caused the fumble. But Joe Mixon's the guy who never puts the ball on the ground. And the offensive line overall, credit to the Bears defense, but the offensive line I thought was generally disappointing. C.J. Stroud at the Improv had to do a lot of what they got done in their passing game. Fortunately, he's C.J. Stroud. Laramie Tunsil again with 2 false starts. I mean, come on. Kenyon Green is going to struggle once in a while. Titus Howard with a hands to the face penalty. So the caliber of competition defensively stepped up. The Texans weren't all that clean offensively, but were able to do enough by not turning over the ball until at least it was inside the 5-yard line late with a 2-score lead. But Stroud, might have had one ball that should have been picked off and was not. But in the end, he didn't turn it over. Caleb Williams turned it over twice. You're going to win ugly sometimes in the NFL. And so the Texans will take it. And for September the 15th, congratulations to the AFC South back-to-back champions. Colts 0-2, Titans 0-2, Jaguars 0-2. So relative to that threesome, the Texans have first world troubles on a lackluster overall offensive night.
Yeah, for me, you talked about the running game there, Brandon. Last week, we were like, hey, it looks like the Texans figured it out. They fixed their rushing attack, and we're good to go now. Joe Mixon looks incredible. It may not be the Texans fixed their run game. It might have been who they played last week, which was the Colts. Because today, the Colts went out and gave up 261 rushing yards to the Packers. So it might just be that the Colts aren't very good at stopping the run, and it's not that the Texans are that improved. Yeah, I didn't see a lot today. Outside of C.J. Stroud, Nico Collins, this offense did almost nothing. I mean, I know Dalton Schultz caught a pass in a big moment, but I mean, Diggs, again, 37 yards. What do you have in the 30s last week? 4 catches. So he didn't do much. I mean, really, Tank had 1 catch for -3 yards. They tried to hand him the ball again. One play it worked. One play he got tackled behind the line of scrimmage. So going forward, they got to find some options outside of Nico Collins. I know they have these guys, but they got to get more production. And Charlie's right. Bears have a good defense. I get all that, but this is another game where the Texans should have won by a lot more. And you brought up the spread, Brandon. Man, if Akers doesn't fumble the ball right there, they're right on the goal line. You expect they're going to get another touchdown. It just doesn't happen. I think they let the Colts hang around. And that was kind of my big mistakes is this game at the very end, the Mario Edwards penalty on the roughing the passer, that absolutely killed them. It wiped away that intentional grounding call. The Akers fumble killed him. The Titus Howard hands to the face, the game would have basically been over there because CJ scrambled and picked up the first down, but then they end up getting that penalty. So, and also notice Al Shire, man. Thank goodness he didn't get popped for punching that guy in the face on the sideline. And I noticed him at the very end of the game. He was still talking smack to the Bears sideline right before the game was over. So, you know, if you play a better quarterback, mistakes like these, they're going to get you beat. So hopefully D'Amico's like, hey, I like the enthusiasm, guys, but we got to be a little smarter about some of this stuff.
Look, the saving grace for the offense, which put together one real good drive the whole night, Kymie Fairbairn. I mean, 6 50-plus yard field goals the first two games, and with roof open as opposed to completely climate-controlled NRG Stadium, just booming them. 56, 47, 59, 53. D'Amico absolutely made the right call, not trying for an insurance score from 61. Would have been fun to see him try it, but play the field position game, especially when you're up 2 scores at the time. But Fairbairn's been just a phenomenal weapon for them to this point. And, you know, if you can win when you play what I'm sure the offense will be saying was a disappointing game, credit to the Bears D, but the Texans offensive standards now they believe are higher than that. 310 yards of offense is nothing to be excited about, but it's 105 more yards than the Bears put up.
Yeah, and let's talk about the expectations for this offense because you know, Josh, you talked about, you know, Tank and kind of limited touches. CJ did try to connect with him in the third quarter, throws over the top, and Tank just drops it. I mean, it's right in his hands, and he absolutely drops what could have been a breakaway touchdown on that possession. But you know, outside of that, it really was the Nico show with Stroud, you know, playing improv in the backfield. You know, we look at all these high-powered weapons that, you know, the Texans have assembled on offense. What does Bobby Slowick have to do to start creating some more opportunities for these guys? Is this just a matter of they're going to have to prove that their run game is viable to soften up some of those boxes to allow, you know, the dominoes to fall to where there's more options here?
I don't want to draw any grand judgments off 2 games, but I wonder in the case of Stephon Diggs, who's still obviously capable and a polished route runner, tremendous effort trying to extend and stretch for that first down, but they just couldn't conclusively give it to him. But I wonder whether he's lost a half a gear. The real fade over the second half of last season, and I don't have the split times, but is the separation time that he gets off the line of scrimmage, or when he makes a cut and is this much closer to the defender that he doesn't loom as seemingly as open a target for the quarterback. Because as Josh alluded to, it's 2 games in a row now with yards per catch numbers of like 6, 7. I think he was 5 for 33 in game 1, and Josh, you cited, if not the exact numbers tonight, similar type of numbers. Dell's never going to be a high volume guy, and I know especially Houston Cougars decry that. He's not Tyreek Hill, right? So he's going to be the guy who you hope to stretch defenses, hit the occasional long ball with. I mean, they've used him more prominently on the jet sweeps, not necessarily successfully, but then having receptions made there. You know, it'll probably take some time for CJ Stroud to get a rhythm as to where he wants to try to spread the ball around to, unless it's just Nico Collins is so much better than all of them that he is going to get not 70% of passes thrown in his direction, but, you know, usage rate will be really high for Nico Collins relative to the other wide receivers. And that's okay because he's better than all of them.
For me, Brandon, I think so many teams are going to come in going, we got to stop their big 3 receivers. So that's going to be the game plan. So if you know that going in, try and throw the ball to the tight ends a little bit more. We saw Mixon line up and run a route, a little slant route early in the game and catch the ball. Maybe throw the ball to your backs a little more. That seemed to work earlier in the game. So if they're going to really try and take away your big three, dial up some stuff to your tight ends and your backs. Now, Dalton Schultz was out of practice most of this week. I was kind of surprised that he played today. So maybe that's why he wasn't as involved. And then back to the running game, Juice Scruggs didn't play at center. And, he's a big part of what they did last week against the Colts. So I wonder if the fall off with him out tonight, impacted the running game in a negative way.
Yeah, so much for that hope after game one, where the starting 5 offensive linemen as a unit played 100% of the offensive snaps against the Colts. And then Scruggs can't answer the bell in game 2. So you hope that Mixon's ankle responds well, because Akers is all right as a fill-in. Damian Pierce out because of a hamstring after his 3-carry workload in week 1. They would seemingly have very little chance to have a good running game if Joe Mixon's not there, because Akers, I don't think, is ready for a workload that Devin Singletary was able to pick up at times last season.
You mentioned the Al Shire missed call and the punch on the sideline. Also a missed call was the hip drop tackle that folded over Joe Mixon's leg. So, a little of that went around on both sides. Obviously, the punch thrown is the most egregious of the misses, I think. But let's talk about, you talked about, the improv. We saw the offensive line surrender 3 sacks. On the other side, Caleb Williams gets sacked 7 times. I mean, I don't think you can really overstate the impact that the defensive front had. And when they decided to start blitzing in that second half, especially in the fourth quarter, Chicago really had no answer for it. Just what did you see out of the defensive front from Houston, Charlie? Because blitzing is not something that D'Amico likes to do commonly, but when he started dialing it up in the fourth, the Bears just were really behind the 8 ball after that.
Well, all night long, really. Williams completed a decent percentage of his passes, but they were virtually all safety valve, nickel dime type stuff. And the game plan was obvious. D'Amico Ryans wanted to break his own defense's tendencies. Get ready, rookie. We're coming after you. One, to try to force Caleb Williams into some poor decisions, which worked. A couple of phenomenally athletic interceptions by Derek Stingley Jr. and Kamari Lassiter. Lassiter had another one negated by penalty. Stingley's pick was very timely, because I thought to that point in the game, he was not having a good night. He whiffed multiple times on tackles. DJ Moore just really lost him on one stick route for a first down. But he who laughs last, and Stingley and Lassiter just both, looked like wide receivers making plays on the ball. But they harried Caleb Williams. I don't know what the final blitz percentage numbers will be, but way more than is and will be typical out of a Texans defense. But we also saw both Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter involved in getting to the quarterback, as opposed to drawing the attention and not being able to get numbers there. And remember, still 4 games away from having one more weapon in that pass rushing attack in Denico Autry. Yeah,
that's a good point. Some of the guys we haven't talked about yet, we did mention Al Shire with 10 tackles. Petrie, he had 10 tackles as well. And there was that chance where we thought it was a flag when he hit Kmet, I believe, over the middle of the field, but then the refs got together and talked and picked it up, which was the right call. He did not go helmet to helmet with him. So I thought he had some good plays, 10 tackles in this game. And then Henry To'oTo'o had 13 tackles and is credited with the sack. So, some guys that maybe you weren't expecting to have big numbers and rack up some stats, they came through for you in this game. But yeah, at the end, the pass rush, it was just too much. Derek Barnett also came away with the sack in this game. So nice to have him there rotating in and out. But yeah, for me, it was kind of the defense was the story with the 7 set. It depends on where you're looking at it. Some places have 7, some places have 8 sacks. I guess they'll figure that out over the next few days, but that's impressive. But I also thought, Caleb Williams made some good plays. He had some good scrambles and got out of a few jams. Now, of course, a lot of those were the Texans doing favors for them. But, when somebody messes up, it's on you to take advantage of it. But there wasn't much there for them. And I was going to say what Charlie did. I thought Stingley was having a tough time with DJ Moore early in this game, letting him get wide open. Williams just wasn't quite able to hit a few throws there, but then they come away with the interceptions. Lassiter really impressed me. He's good. If they have those two guys at corner for the whole year, look out, because they're going to take the ball away at a high level. So I was really impressed with them. Hopefully they can keep it up. I noticed Eric Murray on the field quite a bit this week too, a little more than I was used to. So I thought that was interesting.
I want to give a tip of it's football, so a tip of the helmet to Caleb Williams, because the Texans gave him holy hell over the bulk of the 60 minutes. And I know with his contracts, Timex is probably a little below his tax bracket, but to take a licking and keep on ticking, I don't know if that's still a Timex slogan, but Caleb Williams, I thought, showed a lot. That's the kind of stuff that's going to build a lot of credibility within his locker room and give Bears fans something to be excited about. I just don't think they have a team good enough for Caleb Williams to elevate them the way C.J. Stroud did the Texans last season. But if the Bears don't have Caleb Williams, to use another Texans rookie quarterback of the past, David Card, a bit during this rookie season. You can't absorb that sort of punishment game in, game out without it having either physical impact or you start feeling ghost rushers coming at you, or that clock inside your head, 1,000, run, because you feel like you're about to get drilled. But while he made some mistakes and wasn't terribly accurate throwing the ball, I thought Caleb Williams was rather impressive in defeat.
And defense, too, they did what we wanted this week, right? There were so many big plays, balls that went over their heads against the Colts. They got better at that this week. That wasn't as much of a problem. The other thing with, Caleb Williams, he didn't have Keenan Allen. It's funny. They had Rome Odunze as week to week, early in the week on the practice report. They move him to day. They say Keenan Allen's going to play. They're just resting him out at practice. And then Keenan Allen doesn't play. And then Rome Odunze plays, I think they said almost every single snap in this game on the broadcast. So I thought that was kind of interesting, but good job by the Texans. We said, hey guys, you got to crack down on all these explosive plays. And they were pretty good at that tonight.
The defense gave up one touchdown drive in the game. And that was on a short field after a poor Tommy Townsend punt and a drive that was extended. Rookie mistake. Not that only rookies will make such plays, but a 3rd and 14, you're off the field, limiting into a lengthy field goal attempt, and Kalen Bullock just gets there too early. Clear pass interference call, and then 3-4 plays later, the Bears were able to convert for a touchdown. But so you give up one touchdown on a half field drive. I think it was a 51-yard drive, just 2 field goals. Other than that, you get a couple of takeaways. You have a raft of sacks. You give up only 205 yards. That's winning defense.
Yeah, and going back to your point about Caleb Williams, Charlie, I think he also he missed a couple of back shoulder throws that could have extended drives. Obviously he will get better. It's only his second game in the NFL. His wills certainly can be the difference. He can improv and move with the best of them. It also shows you the difference between a quarterback like him and a quarterback like C.J. Stroud, because Stroud's always looking to pass the ball. Now, granted, he has an amazing outlet in having Nico Collins, who can make Houdini-esque catches, but it does go to show you between those two quarterbacks, which each of them prioritizes. And CJ is a throwing quarterback first. Okay, so to end it here, guys, I'm going to take Kaimi Fairbairn off the board here. I'm going to throw you a curveball here. I'm going to take Kaimi Fairbairn off the board. Give me your MVP for Bears Texans.
There's not one defender who I think stands out as at the head of the class. So I feel like I'm swiping Nico Collins away from Josh. He was 728. Was that the final, or did he add one more catch beyond that? But just huge numbers again. And Nico Collins seems to be evolving into a guy who maybe not just Pro Bowl receiver, but you start thinking of him as maybe a second team All-Pro type guy, or who knows, maybe first team All-Pro. You get a guy here or there injured, or if Nico's going to go on and have a 100 plus reception season, at 15 yards plus per catch. You mix in 8-10 touchdowns in there. He's just evolved into a tremendous force, and I'm not going to call 3 years, $72 million a bargain at this point. But the Texans locking him in before he could get the free agency, and you deal with franchise tag or anything like that. That's looking classic win-win for both Nico and the Texans.
Yeah, he finished 8 for 135, Charlie, with the touchdown. Yeah, it's easy to pick Nico. I mean, 2 weeks in a row, right? The play on the sideline against the Colts that had to be reviewed that helped them win the game. And then Nico had another big play in this game that had to be reviewed where he kind of caught the ball with one hand and kind of pinned it right here. Really, just when you need him, Nico comes up with the big play. But I'll just be a little different. I'll give it to CJ because he didn't make that big mistake that could have cost you in a tight game like this. He managed the game well. When it wasn't there, he threw it away. He used his legs just a little bit when he had to. Some of them got called back. But, yeah, I'll just give it to CJ Stroud. You see what it looks like with Caleb Williams, a rookie in his second start, and how tough that can be, and just the poise of CJ Stroud. I'll give him the player of the game.
Well, I will take D'Amico Ryans. He's not a player, but I just thought the way he dialed up the defense against the Bears was just what the doctor ordered. And I thought it was just to go back to Josh's point, the way they were able to contain on secondary was a vast improvement from what we saw in week 1. That's going to be it for this episode of Texans on Tap. We'll be previewing Texans Vikings later this week, so make sure you're subscribed to this channel so you can come back and check that out. And if you're an Astros fan, the three of us also host an Astros podcast called Stone Cold Stros, and we will be releasing a new episode just in a few hours here. So be on the lookout for that. That's on our other YouTube channel called Sports Map Houston. For Charlie, Josh, thank you for everyone who stayed up and commented and participated in the show.
Hit that
until
like
next time. Oh, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say Josh wants you to click like and subscribe on the channel right now. So please do that if you're here. Well, I don't want to say it all, but all of you that are here right now, just click on it. So thanks so much. Until next time, go Texans.